Karl Beans Scheuer. Karl is the third of 8 children of Bob and Catherine Rauscher Scheuer. Karl's father, Bob, was a longtime principal in the Ely school system. After graduating in 1978, Karl enlisted in the Air Force, where he was trained as a large aircraft mechanic. Later, he was licensed by the FAA and worked for major airlines. He has 4 children. In 2019, Karl returned to Ely and has been working at Hibbing Taconite.
So, Karl, what was it like to be in school in the 1970s? What was the atmosphere like?
Well, I don't know. We had a lot of fun as kids. There were so many kids. Like now, I think there's maybe, 30 kids in a class. But yeah, and we were all close. Like we started in kindergarten and we went up through the grades and we just stayed as a bunch. There was maybe a few kids every year, like maybe 5th grade section 30 kids would come in. But otherwise, it was pretty much the same kids. So yeah, we all knew each other well. And we all got along pretty well, I think.
I understand your father was the longtime principal in the Ely school system. What was that like?
Well, that wasn't always so fun, just because, he was in junior high principal. But we wouldn't really, in the hallway, we'd kind of ignore each other. Well, it's kind of awkward, and he didn't want to get in my business, and I didn't want to be involved with him. So, we pretty much avoided each other, yeah.
Okay. So, did you have a nickname in high school?
Yeah, I think just about everybody had a nickname, but mine was Beans. But my dad was Beans. All of us kids are Beans, yeah. There's little beans, big beans, yeah, it's Beans.
Do you remember the size of your graduating class?
I think it was right around 130 or 128, something like that, yeah.
Okay. And did you have a favorite class when you were in school?
I don't know. I did like the biology class, like with, we had Miss McLeod in 7th grade. And even I liked all the science classes. And then I really liked, now I remember, Mr. Braun's geography class. That was my favorite class. Yeah, I love geography. And it's just so interesting. I still remember the book we had. It had all these charts with oil production in Venezuela or Brazil, whatever. I really enjoyed geography, yeah.
And did you have a favorite, so then was Mr. Braun a favorite teacher?
I think he was he was one of them. And then Mr. Dreschler was the librarian. He was fantastic. You'd walk by the library and he'd hand you a book. And not just me. I mean, he knew every kid what they're reading, or he'd want you to read. He'd buy books for you, but he didn't tell you that. Mm-hmm. Karl, a new book came in. Well, yeah, it's not a new one. You ordered it for me. Yeah.
So what did you do when you were in school for fun? What did the kids do?
Well, in elementary, we played on the playground. I mean, we had so much fun. We had those little footballs at that time. There was always a game like that going on. Plus, they had the big snow. We had those big snow mounds. We were always playing King of the Hill. Yeah, we were outside, all the time. And, so that was a lot of fun for elementary. And then in junior high, I don't know. It was just... I can't. We did have I think we had some dances and stuff, and that was a lot of fun. And we had live bands. I mean, there was live bands on the Iron Range, and they would come to your school dance. We'd pay them. The student council would pay them, but it was awesome. Yeah.
Did you go to prom or homecoming?
I did not go to prom. Anyway, but the homecoming was fun. Yeah, and then the other thing, we decorated for the prom, the gym. I mean, we used all that crepe. Everybody helped. We used the crepe paper, and they lifted up this big. It was crazy. It was a lot of fun. And then we each had a float for homecoming, and we all decorated a class float. So a lot. It was fun because we lived out of town, and we could go in for that stuff and do it. So we had fun with that.
Were you in sports?
Yeah, I was in a lot of sports. I love sports. not so much now, but yeah, growing up, we just had so much fun with it. We had elementary basketball. In first grade, we started playing basketball. And Ely had a good program. George Marsnick was really an excellent coach. And then my dad started helping him with they started an elementary program, super competitive. We had a big giant tournament at the end of the year. Yeah, that was really fun. And then, of course, I played football and track. And Larry Mischke came here when I was a sophomore, biology teacher. And he really invigorated the track program, I think, for his football team. He wanted lots of players and lots of football, a lot of football players. So yeah, but Larry took all the stats of every event and I still have all of his mimeograph sheets, but he really invested a lot of time in it. And he told me later he didn't even know anything really about track, but he had so many kids out for track. It was crazy. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Do you feel you got a good education in the Ely school system?
Yeah, we had really good teachers. The teachers were, they were really dedicated. I was thinking about this too, like, we would go out, we had these mini courses days, and then we'd go out to like Hidden Valley I think it was in junior high, and the forester would come, and different people from town would come out and show us snowshoeing, how to make a fire, about trees, whatever. It was just really fun. And so if you'd never been exposed to like snowshoeing or skiing, you could go skiing at Hidden Valley and learn. We did a lot of stuff, but the teachers all banded together on these things, and they worked together for the whole class. I don't know if it's that way now, but it was all this kind of a community thing, and it's just how it was. Yeah, it was just fun. I don't know. I loved it.
What were your best memories of school?
Well, I like playing sports, so I like basketball, and I don't know. It's just fun playing a sport, and we would get big crowds in those days. Like the gym would be packed. And we had some pretty good basketball teams, and our football team, we just missed going to. We got beat in the regions, I think. Proctor beat us, but we had a really good football team. We had moved out of the Iron Range Conference into the Arrowhead Conference for little smaller schools, and that really helped us. But I just love the sports piece. Yeah.
When you were in school, did you have summer jobs or after school jobs?
Yeah, I think every kid in Ely worked in the summer. It's just how it was. The parents up here were just, they weren't mean, but they were strict, and they wanted their kids to succeed in life. So yeah, they didn't want them fiddling around in the house. So everybody had a summer job. Most of us worked at the canoe outfitter, at a resort, Dairy Queen, A&W, whatever. And some kids stayed out at these resorts all summer and cleaned cabins and cleaned the boats and guided, so. But I think most kids worked, yeah. And parents wanted their kids to work. We made a little money, but then in the end, I look back on that and I go, that gives you a work ethic, and you learn how to do things that, even if it's the simplest little thing, but you understand how to do stuff. And I think nowadays it's changing where I don't think kids really understand how to do things, because we weren't coddled along. The parents weren't mean, but they had expectations. Yeah. And it's good for you. And you were able to try things. Yeah.
What was your job at the Outfitters?
Well, I was a pot licker when I started, but the pot licker cleans the pots, but that's where you start. You clean all those pots for a whole summer. And then usually the next year you'd have your driver's license. Yeah, so that was a great job. Then you would load up the vans with all the gear and go up the Echo Trail up to Ninamoose, Little Indian Sioux, or out to Moose Lake or Snowbank or Lake One. And those are road trips out of town it took an hour or two, a couple hours sometimes. But you would meet these people. Here you are, this sophomore, 16-year-old kid, and you have to learn to communicate with the tourists. I mean, that's just part of these jobs up here. And all of us had to do that, not just the outfitter. I mean, if you're working at Dairy Queen or at Verteen's or wherever, we all learned how to associate with, adults. But the funny thing, at the end of the summer, I mean, everybody was ready, to be honest, for the tourists to go home, and we could just relax a little because you just wanted to be with your friends again, hey? Yeah.
Did you ever get into trouble in school?
No. Well, not really. I didn't get in trouble. I was pretty straight-laced, but that doesn't mean I didn't have fun.
What you chose to do for a living, did you know that you were going to do that when you were in high school?
No, but I started, a lot of us, we worked on cars, right? And I don't think so many kids do that now, but yeah, it was just something, and it was kind of like this whole new world. I got this 1960 Volkswagen Beetle from my neighbor for $25. He was a friend of my dad's. And so, yeah, I started working on this car, not knowing anything, and since I like to read a lot, yeah, I bought this book written by a hippie in California, How to Fix Your Volkswagen, and it had cartoon sketch. It was phenomenal. But then we had the shop classes too at school. You know, they had the vocational machine shop for two hours a day. I mean, so I had that my junior and senior year. So that all played into it. Yeah.
Was there an adult or friend who had a lifelong, lasting influence on your life?
I don't know about that so much, but right now I'm a Larry Mischke, my football coach. I'm a friend, you know, with him, and he takes me fishing. And actually, when I think back, I was really fortunate. Like when I was a sophomore, Marty Lochner, who was my 8th grade basketball coach, and he was a 4th grade teacher. I didn't have him, but he asked my dad if he could take me beaver trapping, you know, and we had a camp set up and stuff up in the Boundary Waters, and we'd go every weekend. Yeah, so but they just were good mentors. And I think it's just so important nowadays for kids to have mentors that can help them and respect them. And it's just this relationship between the older and younger. Yeah. And I think a lot of the Ely teachers were like that. They wanted us to succeed, no matter if it was in sports or academics or whatever. Yeah.
I know you recently moved back to Ely. What drew you back?
Well, part of it was my mom and dad were getting older, and so that was part of it. And then I work over in Hibbing, so I was in Cloquet, and the drive is about the same. But yeah, so I came back and I helped them some, and my other siblings, we all did. We helped my mom and dad, and yeah, it worked out well.
You could live anywhere.
Yeah, but Ely is spectacular. You know, I think if you're from Ely, when you grow up in Ely, I don't think it's like any other town in the world, to be honest. Maybe in Europe, but Ely, you have these old-time miners that there's a way of life here, and it was at the end of the road in those days. I mean, and I'm not even that old, but, you know, Ely wasn't, it was at the end of you had to make a big decision to drive up to Ely, right? Now it's a lot easier. So the culture here kind of stayed the same. I think it was kind of locked in this little time capsule. But yeah, it's just the most beautiful area, really. You have all these lakes. We knew it as kids. When I went in the Air Force, I go, holy cow, I want to go back. I mean, because no, it's special. And then the people here, you have your old-time Iron Range guys, and then, of course, now you have, well, then the Forest Service, the Boundary Waters expanded, so there's all these different cultures kind of melting here now. But yeah, if you're from the Iron Range and from Ely, you can go anywhere in the world, and if you say, hey, I'm from Ely, Minnesota, somebody, if they're a ranger, they're going to know, and you're going to have a beer with them, hey? Because that's just how it goes. I mean, that's part of this European culture they brought over. You're kind of united. It's just the coolest thing, and I think that's why Ely, yeah, so many of us have moved back. What other town has that? Where I bet Ely has more of us moving back, right? Yeah. The other thing I'm going to just, the other thing too, like when you go to the memorial service at the cemetery, you see all those flags of all these men that have served in the military. It's crazy because these Iron Range, the immigrants, they love their country. I mean, they served, it's just fantastic. And that's not only Ely, that's all across the Iron Range. But I think Ely probably has a super high ratio of vets. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So, do you have any advice for the kids in school today?
Well, one thing I'll say to the young kids is, if you can get outside and enjoy, especially if you're up here in Ely, if you can get out on a canoe trip or find somebody to take you on a canoe trip, it's fascinating. And you get out in the woods instead of just being on your device. Or if you get a job, a summer job here, why not work? Why not? And then you can learn. You don't always have to make money at this age, I don't think. You'll make a little. But get the experience of being out in this area. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so nice here, yeah.
Do you get out now?
Oh yeah, I go out. I'd like to go more. When I retire, I plan to go more. And yeah, I've been fortunate though. People have asked me to go on canoe trips with them and fishing trips, and so that's awesome for me. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about the Ely school system or?
Well, you know, I was thinking about this. And I started thinking about our school lunches, to be honest. We had Mrs. Hernesma, Mrs. Anderson, Mrs. Patterson, and the head lady in the kitchen. But our meals, when I look at those school lunch, we loved them. I mean, they made those big meatballs. They were delicious. Hamburger on a buns, fish switch. You know, it's just all meatloaf. I don't know. I loved them. And my mom always told us, you guys better eat everything on your plate, you know, because those are homemade cooked meals. They weren't these prepackaged things. And the other thing I want to say about the Ely schools is, like, I still remember the janitors, like John Perushik and Mr. Gregorich. But they were always watching our basketball practices and our games. Mr. Artisensi, the senior Mr. Artisensi, he would always sit in that back corner. He was on the school board, I think, too. I don't know, but they were involved. They would come to the games. A lot of teachers would and stuff. So, yeah, those are things I remember. It was just a lot of school spirit, yeah.